Upon its ascension to power, the Empire claimed to bring justice and stability to the entirety of the galaxy that had been ripped apart by a war for over 3 years. And to some extent this was true. Via draconian methods, the Imperials did collapse major crime syndicates. And although this was often done to steal assets from them, or simply to put their own power structures to grow rich off the suffering of others, it did somewhat work. However, there is one group in particular that I think the Empire didn't really do much about, and that is pirates. Pirates had been the scourge particularly of the Outer Rim for millennia, and had grown even bolder and better armed throughout the Clone Wars, making a profit as the peacekeepers of the galaxy were too busy fighting in wars. Now, we have to imagine that initially, the rise of the Empire may have seemed a bit worrying to pirates. However, I would argue that many actually continued to exist in relative comfort and maybe even expanded their operations. Now, I do want to take a moment here to mention that this is not in any ways due to the Imperials caring about pirates at all. We know that if pirates were caught attacking Imperial transports, for example, or someone whose transports the Empire is deemed to be important, such as a senator or an ally, or a corporate entity that backed the Imperials, then a swift and merciless repercussion would be in order, normally involving hunting down and the total annihilation of said pirate crew. However, this didn't apply to a lot of pirates. For a moment, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a pirate captain in the Outer Rim. Why would you ever try to attack an Imperial transport? Simply put, it just wouldn't be worth it. You wouldn't stand a chance if a Star Destroyer showed up, or even most of the Imperials' corvettes. This was a titanic war machine. And although Imperials will have undoubtedly had the most valuable cargo, the chances of you successfully stealing it were slim to none. Now, I'm not saying that no pirates stole from the Imperials, we know that some did. However, to a lot of pirate crews, this was just not an option. But just because the Imperials were off limits, that didn't mean that there wasn't plenty of other opportunities elsewhere. As we know, the Clone Wars and the Empire displaced countless individuals from their homes, and this in turn created a massive refugee crisis. Now, the Empire didn't care about these people, that's why they were just left relatively defenseless. Most transports that were holding refugees were just full of civilians fleeing for their lives with their life savings, and this is a pretty tempting target. It's very likely pirates could catch these individuals, steal their wealth, and then sell the people off as slaves to one of the many institutions that the Empire allowed to exist, for example spice mines on Kessel. So these sorts of transports were very profitable for a pirate crew, and very low risk. Now, as for the Imperials, you may be thinking, this hardly seems right. The Empire would never let pirates exist to do this to their citizens. And, well, yes, but also no. The Empire in the big picture just didn't really care about its citizens, particularly these refugees. To them at least, they had very little value, that's why the Empire just kicked them out of their homes and made them leave. If they were seen as valuable, the Empire would not have done this. They would have put them somewhere else. They would have put them to work. They would have tried to use them. And the Outer Rim was full of colonies of people who the Empire deemed unworthy for their attention. We also need to remember the fact that, simply put, policing space where the pirates were hunting their prey is just not an easy job. I know I say this a lot, but space is big. Launching patrols, setting up checkpoints was just not worth it. The Empire had bigger plans for their navy, such as hunting down insurgencies, tracking down ex-separatists and freedom fighters. At the end of the day, for them, it was just far easier to give Imperial transports, or transports that they thought were important, holding valuable cargo and assets, through pirate-infested territory, a military escort. That way, they know that their transports are safe, and they don't have to commit resources to a part of the galaxy that may not be that valuable to them. So ultimately, I just don't think that pirates saw a lot of the Imperials, at least those that were willing to stay out of the Imperials' way. However, despite all of this, I think that there is a far bigger and more malicious reason why many pirates were able to survive under the Empire. And that was because often they actually helped the Empire, at least indirectly. You see, for one, most pirates were generally speaking aliens, particularly Wikwayans, as we've seen from numerous Star Wars series. For this reason, it greatly helps the Empire push its anti-alien narrative, ensuring support from the mid and core worlds. Remember, a lot of these worlds were human-dominated. It gave the image that the Empire was this shield that kept these mostly human worlds safe from this alien scourge preying on the Outer Rim, and this built up loyalty. Secondly, it provided something that the Empire desperately needs, and that is an enemy. We've talked before about how, being an autocracy, the Empire kind of needs to have enemies to rationalize its massive military, to keep the people in line and complacent. If the Empire was at peace for a long period of time, then people would eventually become restless and begin to speak out and rise up against the Imperials. However, pirates are a great enemy. There's always new groups emerging. They'll never really pose a great threat to the Empire. And simply put, no one supports them. This is different to the Rebellion. The Rebellion has a cause, it's there to fight for freedom and democracy. And people can get behind that and support them and have opinions on it. But no one's out there hoping that the pirates do well because they're just greedy. They're seen as merciless thugs. At the end of the day, the Empire can release reports of brutal pirate attacks to keep the people afraid and therefore loyal to them. And then, every now and again, they can very easily just send a patrol into the Outer Rim, wipe out a few crews, rescue a couple of prisoners, and arrest and bring to justice some pirate crew members. Pretty easily, and this is brilliant PR for the Empire. And it really helps them out in their balancing act of maintaining the people of the galaxy's compliance. Now, the very final point I do also want to make is regarding corruption. Imperial officials were corrupt, we know this for a fact, and for this reason, I see no reason why pirate crews wouldn't just be able to pay tribute to local Imperial warlords in return for them being allowed to continue their business. So long as the pirates didn't interfere with said Imperial's operations, and so long as they kicked a little bit up to said Imperial warlord for them to expand their own personal wealth, then a lot of Imperial bureaucrats would really just have no issue with this. On the flip side, the Empire may even possibly choose to pay the pirates to do things that they couldn't risk being affiliated with, such as political assassinations. And now the final point of this video, and that is that the pirates weren't rebels. As I said, they weren't fighting for freedom nor democracy, they were fighting for greed. And to an extent, this kind of gives the Empire a little bit of added protection from groups that genuinely want their blood. For example, the Rebel Alliance. Sure, pirates would never attack Imperial transports because the Imperial is a galactic superpower, but what about little rebel transports who are smuggling weapons? That's going to be a tempting target because, simply put, the rebels do not have the capability to defend their own assets and resources from pirates. So, to an extent, the pirates sort of added that extra layer of protection. The Empire knew that at the end of the day, they would rather have the Outer Rim in the hands of greedy warlords than in the hands of actual rebel insurgents who wanted to bring down the Empire. Ultimately, I believe that pirates and the Empire enjoyed somewhat of a symbiotic relationship. The Empire didn't really care, and in some way, the pirates even provided some benefits. So as cruel as it was, why would the Empire ever bother to sink many resources into bringing peace to the Outer Rim and stopping these pirates? But what do you guys think? Did the Empire let pirates survive on purpose? And was this a wise choice? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. Do hope that you enjoyed it. If so, please remember to like, share, and sub, as it is really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and tick the bell to get regular updates whenever new content is released. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching this video today. I really do hope that you enjoyed. Hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you next time.